Hello, AP4. I hope everyone's doing okay. This is the Poisonwood Bible, pages 153 to 186, which takes us to the end of the second section of the novel. This one here is a picture of Patrice Lumumba, um, probably around the time of his election as president. You learned a little bit about him from Anthony Bourdain. Let's do that. The schedule. Today's April 1st. Takes us to the end of the section. So Ruth May has this try to see Nelson naked, which is a very small child thing to do. And Ruth May also confirms that Ada's brush with the lion, near miss of not being chosen as prey by the lion, has made more people come to church. There's this whole story about Leah having an owl as a pet, and it's scaring Nelson and angering their father. Then we have Rachel's chapter, where she just keeps herself kind of separate from the community. But Rachel's good for reporting things that happen. So this is about the Underdowns coming to them in Kilanga to visit, which is actually kind of a big deal. That they would leave the comfort of their nice house in the capital city to visit them in their little cottage in their tiny little village. The Underdowns are telling them to leave, and there's weirdness in here. They're explaining to the Prices about Congolese independence is going to be a thing that's going to happen, which really did happen. And Nathan is arguing about it, which is very weird, of course. There's a bit of a discrepancy in terms of what Nathan understands and what Orleana understands about how they're there in Africa in the first place. So I'm going to ask you a question about that in book 2, about this kind of misunderstanding that Orleana has and why she has that. But of course, the result of the hey, it's time to leave is that Nathan does not want to leave, because he hasn't fulfilled God's mission for him yet. He hasn't turned everyone into Christians yet. So he can't leave, even though it's been there. They've been there the year, or just about. And the capital, I think I said it was Stanleyville. The capital is Leopoldville. All the names are about to change with independence anyway. Sorry. Ada's chapter begins with a William Carlos Williams poem, only not in verse form, just sort of in prose, and she talks about William Carlos Williams being a doctor and a poet. It's a lot like Ada. she's very cerebral. And then she talks about the issues of the children dying from this particular disease, um, and sort of the threat um, overshadowing Congolese independence. Now, in case you didn't gather it from the Anthony Bourdain episode that I showed, just to be perfectly clear, the Congo has a great deal of natural resources that the Western world wants: rubber, cobalt, gold, diamonds, um, and not anything particularly that the Congolese people needed. So when Western forces started colonizing the Congo, it was not just to like own the property, but to export all of the natural resources, raw materials. Um, Belgium is about to grant the Congo its own independence. So it's a question of what's going to happen to all of the resources that have been mined and owned by Western companies. Um, will these Western companies just give up the mines that they built? Or do they want to hang on to these industries they've created that are very profitable? Kind of always, it all goes back to that. And then, of course, we are in the height of the Cold War, um, which is a very weird us versus them mentality. I remember as a kid, I am old, I'm not denying that. I remember looking at a globe and thinking in terms of, which country is with us and which is with the Soviet Union, who's on our side and who's on their side. And I didn't really know how to understand it any other way, because we knew we had like all of Western Europe and uh, most of North America, but the Soviet Union had Cuba, North Korea, and China. And then but then there's like that also leaves a lot of countries out. And both of these superpowers just sort of looked at every nation in the world like, well, who are you lining up with? It's a weird thing to think about because, of course, it's more complex than that. And the Congo is kind of the perfect example of getting caught in the middle, um, which will happen more as we find out what happens to Patrice Lumumba. Then we have another short Rachel chapter where she talks about um, Congolese independence, and she says, her last sentence, all I want is to go home and start scrubbing the deep-seated impurities of the Congo out of my skin. She's this 15-year-old girl. Nobody asked her if she wanted to move to Africa and not have a normal teenage life. Just like nobody asked any of you guys if you'd rather stay home and do online school right now. So you might sympathize with her a little bit. And I always do until she rats herself out as saying something awful and racist. Um, Now, from Ruth May's chapter, what we learn is that they're really both quite ill. They come, it's not really a spoiler, but both Ruth May and Mother come down with malaria. And then there's Leah's last chapter where she talks about experiencing the ceremony for herself because her father wanted to, and she is the closest thing to a favorite because she's the one who most wants her father's approval. So she goes with him. They have dinner at the Underdowns house, and Leah can't even imagine the luxury of it, uh, which is really odd. And they're about to leave. They're going to Belgium, and um, but the prices are staying put. The underdowns are pretty awful in terms of how they treat the people working in their house. Um, they have chocolate. Leah says on page 183, I should probably be scrolling here. I'm kind of blowing through all this text. Um, on page 183, Leah says, for dinner, the houseboy brought us one thing after another until I thought I'd burst. Real meat, orange cheeses wrapped in red wax, canned yellow asparagus. After 100 white meals of fufu bread, potato buds, and carnation milk, it was too much taste and color for me. I chewed and swallowed slowly, feeling sick. After dinner, why chocolate cookies from France? Um, and she said that she couldn't eat it. She said I only took one and couldn't get my mouth to eat it, though I wanted to badly. Um, and then, of course, the under talking about the suspicion about about the houseboy going to steal from them. Here it is. I thought about that kilo of sugar he tried to stash under his shirt. With so much else around, why wouldn't Mrs. Underdown just go ahead and give it to him? There shouldn't be a quotation mark there. Um, was she actually going to take all her sugar back to Belgium? Right? Like what? Um, they go to the ceremony, and it's a very big deal. And they go to Patrice Lumumba's inauguration. Ada has this one little last chapter um, where she finds out that poor Methuselah has come to a um, has come to an end, has been consumed by a civet cat, and says Methuselah is free of his captivity at last. This is what he leaves to the world, gray and scarlet feathers strewn over the damp grass. Only this and nothing more, the telltale heart, tale of the carnivore. Um, she has a pretty dark interpretation of things, to put it mildly. I will end this right now and put it up on Classroom. I hope you're watching. Please give me feedback if you have any. I hope you're reading. Next week, I will put up book 2 questions. So, hope you're doing them. Make sure you reply to somebody else, all that good stuff. Take care, everyone. I hope to see your faces in some form or another sooner or later. Take care. Bye bye.